Hey guys, so we have the final regular season post-game press conference for Mike Tomlin. The next post-game press conference will be after a playoff game in Baltimore against the Ravens. The Steelers did unfortunately lose to the Bengals, and the Chargers beat the Raiders, which pushed the Steelers from the 5 seed to the 6 seed. So now they have to go to Baltimore. Um, Baltimore is definitely going to be favored in that game, like for sure. It's, and I'd guess maybe like 10, maybe 8, 9, or 10, somewhere in that. I would say probably barely like a two-score game, right in that ballpark. Just because the Steelers, they ended the season with a 4-game losing streak, which was their first time doing that since 1998. And in just the matter of a few weeks, maybe like 2, 3 weeks, I would say 3, they went from being 10-3 in control of the AFC North and the 3 seed to the 6 seed, losing 4 straight, giving up the AFC North, and not only that, but now they're not even the top wildcard team. So, I mean, it could be worse. You could be the Lions or the Vikings, whoever ends up losing the Sunday night game, which is going on right now as I'm recording this. So, you guys know the result. I don't. But, the Lions or the Vikings, whoever loses is going to be 14 wins and the 5 seed, which it's a shame. It is. But that is the current playoff layout. So, and I know, when the Steelers were 10-3, Mike Tomlin was coach of the year. People were chill with Russ, like, hey, Justin was fine, but he couldn't pass the same as Russ, and this, that, the other. And now, 10-7, Mike Tomlin needs to be fired. Russ is no good. We gotta go back to Justin, which I know people were like, hey, we're 4-2 with Justin. This isn't bad. And then Russ came and he struggled a little in his first game versus the Jets, and it was like, oh, now what? And like, we had some, and this is where you're gonna possibly have an issue. We'll see. But with what I say, but we had some good things, right? Russ was playing well at times, and it was enough to where people were, yeah, Russ, yeah. Like I said earlier, like when we were 10-3. And then you play 3 playoff teams. You play the Bengals, who, man, they were on a 5-game winning streak, I believe. So a 5-game win streak, and they and they nearly made it into the playoffs. They needed the Dolphins to lose or tie and the Broncos to lose, but the Chiefs were playing their backups. Now, the Broncos ended up torching the Chiefs 38-0, but they are a Broncos loss away from being in the playoffs, which is astounding that they were able to do that. So, even losing to them for the 4th straight loss, I mean, they have a great offense. Terrible defense, but a great offense. And I think I said in the Week 18 press conference, I have my notes right here. Let's see. I have it here somewhere. Oh, I had ball not bouncing our way, and that continued in this game versus the Bengals, which is insane, by the way. the amount of times it just didn't go our way. Bengals D vulnerable but can make plays, which they have been doing as of late. Trey Hendrickson, amazing pass rusher, and depending on what happens with their salary cap, they might lose him. Like he had, 16 and a half sacks at some point, and the rest of the team had 18 and a half. Like that is the kind of player, and he'll end up leading the league in sacks this year. But man, he is really good for them. So, like I said, and he abused Dan Moore. He really did. So it's unfortunate, and everyone's fire Tomlin. And I mean, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but wasn't it 10-ish years ago, maybe a little less, before Lamar got to Baltimore? That it was for sure that. But weren't Ravens fans shouting for John Harbaugh to get fired? Like, am I imagining that? Someone let me know if I'm just completely imagining that. Because if I am, okay. Like, I'm imagining it. But I'm pretty sure they wanted him fired. And the Ravens didn't. And then they got Lamar. And look at them now. And you won't find one Ravens fan that wants John Harbaugh fired unless they're dumb or delusional. Now, if the Steelers beat them in the wild card, or if they lose in the divisional to Buffalo, let's say, and it's like, oh, okay, Lamar can't, struggles to win the big games and yada yada, then maybe do some fans be like, Harbaugh is not the answer or Lamar's not good enough? Maybe. But you have a guy who could be back-to-back MVP and would have his third MVP in, he really didn't start in 2018 that much because he was a rookie and Flacco played a lot. But then Flacco got hurt. So let's count 2019 as first year as a starter. 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Year 6 of being a full-time starter. And dude could have 3 MVPs. Literally winning the MVP on average every other year. Now, I get that's a regular season award, yada yada. And who knows, maybe Josh Allen wins it this year. But I don't think the Steelers have the quarterback of the future on the roster. I don't. And unfortunately, with them competing for the playoffs every year, and everyone's like, oh, the 500 record. You can't tell me they don't at least compete for the playoffs every year. Because being 8-8, or now in today's system of 17 games, being 9-8, like that can contend for playoffs. It can. But and sometimes that wins you a bad division, 9 wins, which automatically gets you into the playoffs. So like everyone's like, tank for a year and draft a franchise quarterback and you're good. Right. How'd that go for the Jets when they drafted Sam Darnold and then Zach Wilson? Okay, go get a veteran, right? Okay, that worked out for Tampa. And it worked out for the Rams. How'd that work out for Denver with Russ? How'd that work out for the Jets with Aaron Rodgers? Like, just because others have done it doesn't mean it's going to be the same for you. I mean, look at the 2021 draft, right? Trevor Lawrence, who, should he have gotten $55 million a year? I don't know. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, right? Who else was in the 2021 draft? There was those 3. I think there might have been one more, but I can't remember. Now go back to the 2020 draft. Burrow, Tua. Now, whatever you say about Tua, Miami's probably the perfect spot for him. Warm weather, dude grew up in Hawaii, went to Alabama, now plays in Miami. Like, Miami's probably the perfect spot for him. South, warm, good. Who else was in that draft? Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, who sat for a few years, and he looks like he can be, at least a decent starter. He has to stop turning the ball over so much. and then Jalen Hurts. So it's like, okay, lots of starting quarterbacks in the 2020 draft. 2021? 2022. We saw how that went. Kenny, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, all these quarterbacks, and it's like, who was the other one? Malik Willis. And he did fine starting for Green Bay. But in Tennessee, he wasn't very good. So, maybe environment matters some. But my point with this is that just because you take a quarterback high doesn't mean it's going to work out. And just because you go get a veteran does not mean it's going to work out, right? So, and Arthur Smith, everyone's trashing his play calling, and his play calling is not great. It's not. Because he keeps running the same toss to Najee, and it doesn't work. And then he runs that toss to Cordero, and it doesn't work. But then, it's, okay, up the middle with Jalen Warren. And Jalen can do it, he's kind of like a bowling ball. But maybe you should get your 6'2", 230, 240-pound running back to go up the middle. Not on a toss, but let him get a head of steam on with Russ under center and hand it off. Let him get a head of steam and go. And hit the hole. And also, I think the play calling would work out better if the Steelers had, and this is like a well duh, and oh my God, it's 12 minutes and I haven't even gotten into the reaction yet, but you have, if you had better players, and well duh, if you have better players, but actually think about it. If we had a better O-line, we'd probably be better in run blocking and pass protection. So the running backs might have an easier time, and Russ and Justin wouldn't get sacked as much as they were this year. And Russ, he screwed up at the end of the Bengals game. So don't think I'm in favor of one or the other. I said we don't have the future quarterback on our roster now. And we don't have any quarterback signed for next year. So is it going to be an all-new slate? But, if you have better offensive linemen, then you can block better. If you have better receivers, maybe they're more of a threat, so you don't stack the box. And who knows, maybe Arthur Smith's system can work. It's just we don't have the players to make it work. That's a complete possibility. And then there's also the possibility that is Matt Canada 2.0, and he's not going to be any good, and we need to get a different guy in there. Whether it's a coach who's on the team currently, or it's a coach who is somewhere else right now. And the whole fire Mike Tomlin, and I've said this for years, you don't fire him. Because if you fire him, he'll be signed within the next couple of days by some other team. And it's, okay, yeah, have him, enjoy. Well, if he's going to be signed by another team in just a couple of days, trade him. And I don't know if I said this in the Week 18 press conference or not, leading up to the Bengals game. And I swear I'll get into the reaction in just a minute. I'll probably put something at the beginning to say, jump here for reaction. But, what was I going to say? You trade him because that's assets. You don't just fire him, trade him. If you're going to get rid of him. I've said that for years to people who say fire him. And Terrell Austin, I don't really like Terrell Austin that much. I really do think we should have kept Brian Flores. The thing is that Terrell Austin, he was a secondary coach. So I feel like he wants to play conservative, he wants to play coverage, and get home with our four main guys. But I don't think that's good enough, because the issue is that if you do that, a team can just get the ball out on a screen or on a short little route, and maybe we get pressure or maybe you get a hit, but they're not holding the ball long enough for us to get through the offensive line and hit and sack the quarterback. So if you blitz more, that might solve the issue, but we don't know yet. We have to blitz more, and so I'm not a fan of Terrell Austin at all, and I know a lot of people aren't. Just I think he's too conservative. That's me. He needs to be more aggressive. He needs to blitz more, and that's where a guy like Brian Flores, I think he's more aggressive with his defense. So if we can get a linebacker, like a former linebacker or a linebacker coach in there, and he can be more aggressive. You don't have to blitz every time. Like, not at all. But we have too much money and too many big name players in this defense to have it where they don't have success on a regular basis. So it's a shame, but let's get into what Mike Tomlin has to say. And who knows, maybe he says similar things to what I had to say. But let's see.
Man, we certainly had our opportunities to win the game, but we didn't. We got to own that. Not enough routine playmaking.
George had a lot of drops
routinely
too.
is kind of a signature of high floor football, and I just thought that particularly on the offensive side, we didn't do enough routine things well to move the ball with fluidity, to win possession downs, to possess it, to score, and so the game was touch and go because of that. Obviously, that sequence there at the end of the first half, man, we missed an opportunity there to maybe get some points and book in the half. I thought that was significant. From an injury standpoint, Najee was evaluated for a head injury, but he was cleared and came back in the game. And very late in the game, Mason McCormick
I didn't even know
his
Mason
left
got hurt.
hand and is being evaluated as we speak.
Didn't even
Probably
know
have
that.
more information the next time we get together. Questions?
How disappointing and concerning is it to end the season that way, force consecutive losses heading to the postseason?
It's disappointing because we play to win, but it's neither here nor there. We're in the single elimination tournament now, and so we better turn our attention toward playing good football and better than we have, particularly in recent weeks.
Mike, why didn't you punt at the end of the first half? Why did you decide to go for it?
We had timeouts. They had timeouts. I didn't want to give the ball back to them. I like to be aggressive in those moments. If you can't get a yard, you don't deserve to win. And so obviously we didn't.
Only 12 passing attempts through the first three quarters.
Again, we weren't doing enough to possess the ball, and so you can talk about passing attempts, you can talk about rushing attempts. They had the ball for I don't know how many minutes, we didn't. It's all a culmination of not winning enough possession downs and possessing the ball, and they did. And so we're going to be short whatever way you cut it.
Also a first down issue too, Mike?
I'm sorry?
Your effectiveness on first down, was it also a first down issue too?
Yes, but again, 3rd and 8 plus a lot, and so yeah, that's certainly reflective of what we're doing on first down football.
When you put these last four behind you and go kind of clean slate, as you mentioned, into
I don't know that you go clean slate. You better learn from these lessons. You know what I mean? It's okay. We're a mentally tough group. It's okay to learn from these lessons and to remember the things that created this, because there's nothing mystical about it, And so that's going to be my mentality, and that's what I'm going to relate to the guys as we move into next week.
Do you think it was prudent to bring Najee back when he was a little nicked up, and maybe you could have brought in Jalen for the remainder of the game?
What is your question?
Why did they bring Najee back?
Because he was medically cleared to come back into the game.
That this group is mentally tough.
I'm around him every day.
Was listed as healthy. Was he available for the short yardage situations or red zone situations?
He was.
Stick with Russ when the offense wasn't able to move anything. Did you consider inserting Justin?
Not really, no. Because our failures were collective. And I just think at this juncture, the most prudent thing for us to do was to stick with those that were on the field and work through it.
what were the Bengals doing that allowed them to keep the sticks moving and keep that momentum?
You talking about offensively?
Yeah, Cincinnati's offense.
They were throwing rhythm passes. They're gonna make some plays. You know, we're gonna make some plays. They did what we expected them to do. They had to neutralize our rush, and particularly early on, they were getting the ball out quickly. Once we started batting some passes and things of that nature and throwing some of that off rhythm, it settled into a flow that we were comfortable with defensively.
You guys had over 500 yards of offense the first time you played this team. What was the difference tonight?
We made plays in that one. We didn't make routine plays in this one.
Coach.
Anyone else?
Yes, Coach. As far as time of possession, Cincinnati actually had the ball 16 more minutes than your team. So what can you do? And for the last few games, the time of possession has been lost. So what can you do to actually change that?
It's the same discussion as when she was asking about the 12 passes. You know, if you're not converting possession downs, and they are, it's going to get skewed. They possessed the ball. We didn't. We didn't make enough routine plays. We were not in third manageable, particularly early on. We were in third and longer. And so they had a heck of a lot more snaps in totality than we did.
They scored on their first two possessions to start the game, first two possessions, second half. I know those are always key moments for you. What's been going wrong?
You know, I'm not going to define the game by that. They scored a touchdown and a field goal on their first two possessions. We scored a touchdown. It was a 10-7 ball game. A lot of ball to be played.
I think it's 6 straight games here to have a 3-and-out in your first drive on offense. Why has that been so difficult for you guys to get going early?
Again, as I mentioned, we didn't make enough routine plays throughout the game, early on, middle, late, however you want to describe it. We got to get back to making more routine plays than we have at this juncture.
You came out throwing in that game in Cincinnati a month ago. Why did you change it this time around? It seemed like you had more of an emphasis on the running game early in this one.
Again, I'm not comparing it to the last outing. We formulated a plan that we thought was appropriate for this environment and this game this week, and didn't work out the way we would like.
Anyone else?
All right, thanks.
All right. So I only have a few notes here. I mean, the offense just flat out not good enough, but well, duh. It wasn't, I don't think it was mentioned unless I missed it, but they had success late in the game passing, and I don't know if that was Cincinnati playing a little off in order to not allow the deep pass behind them, not allow the easy touchdown. Or was it just we were doing something, and it might be a combination of both. Were we doing something that we weren't doing before, and it was working? Because before it was run, 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 run. Oh, here's a little pass. Run, 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 run. Here's a little pass. And deep shot, right? But when we're going no huddle, and it's, throw, 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 throw. And we're actually moving down the field. So I don't know, can we pass? And just Arthur Smith is like, nah, let's run. I'm pretty sure he was a former offensive lineman. So the offensive linemen love to run the ball. But at the same time, you got to know, do we have the guys to run the ball? Yes or no? If we don't, I'm sorry, you can't run. You have to, at that point, you have to pass to set up the run. And I can't believe they didn't give Dan Moore more help. They really, they screwed the pooch on that one. You need to give Dan Moore help in that situation against Trey Hendrickson. You have to. All right. And then the hit on Naj, it was an uncalled helmet-to-helmet hit. That's where, and I said this while watching the game, that's where I feel like replay assist can come in and say, hey, we had an missed, obvious, egregious, whatever you want to use, helmet-to-helmet, and you need to throw a flag on that. Because some stuff, we're still iffy on what we're doing with replay assist. And some stuff, I'm like, why is that and not this? And that seems like something where, guys, this wasn't a ticky-tack, like maybe he caught the bottom or, whatever. or he barely grazed it. Like, no, that was a boom hit. And it should have been called. It was missed, and that's where replay assists can come in and assess a penalty. Tell them, hey, you need to call this penalty. In the NFL, I hope someday will evolve and change, and we'll see. And this wasn't really mentioned, but George dropped the ball, I believe, 3 times. Now, he wasn't targeted a lot, and he had 1 catch for no yards, but again, he had those drops. And one of the passes, and it wasn't a drop, and at first I thought it was on George. And you should see the replay. It's like, okay, Russ needs to throw him a better ball than that. It was late in the game. I don't know exactly how much time was on the clock. But it was late in the game, like 4th quarter, one of our last attempts to try to score. And George is open, and Russ threw it too far to the sideline to where George was like, oh shit, and he kind of just falls over himself, and he stuck a hand out, but he wasn't even close. So, and it looked like he got shaken up a little bit on that, and I wasn't sure if he was hurt or not. I think we were out of our timeouts, I can't remember. But it looked like he was a little shaken up, and he ended up right back in the huddle, so he didn't come out at all. But he had a few drops, and I wrote his antics on the sideline. And this is where I don't think the Steelers can pay George. I don't. If they want to have him next season, I'm fine with that. But after that, I think you got to let him go. Now, if you wanted to trade him, depending on the compensation, I'd be okay with it. And, depending on if you sign anybody or draft a receiver, whatever happens. But his antics on the sideline, right? And I say that because he had to have multiple people talk to him. And he also was going back and forth with some fans, and what people were saying was that, like, he wanted to fight them. And that's just, I'm out on George right now. If he doesn't grow the fuck up this offseason, I'm done. Yes, you're uber talented, and maybe somebody in the NFL can reel you in, or maybe at some point you'll grow up. But Mike Tomlin, he's one of the best people at keeping receivers in check. I mean, he kept Antonio Brown in check, for God's sake. And if he can't keep George in check, I mean, Deontay, we see what happened to him after he left Pittsburgh. And it's just, if he can't handle George has to go. And I know Tomlin has the I'll put up with you until I can replace you. And I think it's time to replace him if he doesn't grow up. And, people might severely disagree with that, but I'm getting tired of it. And shouting at the fans, wanting to fight, like, dude, come on. They're going to go home, and they're going to work their 9 to 5. You're going to go home, get up in the morning, and you're going to go play football. You're going to practice. You're going to get treatment. You're going to do all that stuff for a living. You get paid to do that. They're going to go work a fucking 9 to 5. Why do you have to interact with those people? I'm one of them. I'm a 9 to 5. Like, why do you have to do that? Honestly. He doesn't have to do that. And just, I think Russ talked to him. I think Pat talked to him. Like, guys are trying to keep him under control, and they just can't. And there's some stuff where it's a little funny. Like, who was it? It was the Cowboys game right at the end when they're doing the lateral stuff. And the guy goes and taunts in George's face, and he grabs his face mask and just shoves him out. Like, okay, like, the guy's taunting you, and it's, get the fuck out of my face. Like, I can deal with that. I can deal with that a little bit, right? Washington, when Russ threw the interception to, God, who was it? Was it Chin? Was it Jeremy Chin? But he throws the interception, right? And George was going up against, was it Sanistrel, the rookie from Michigan, maybe? But, like, he, like, tackled him. And it's like, no, George, he has the ball. Chin. Jeremy Chin, he has the ball. So, but he's getting on my nerves. And he makes some amazing catches. He does. And, you know, you look at it and your jaw drops at some of the catches he makes. And, like, sometimes when he doesn't catch it, your jaw drops because it's, how did he not catch that? Like, you almost expect him to make these crazy circus catches. So, he's got to grow up. He does. And if he doesn't, vamos. Bye-bye. So, that's all I got, note-wise. And I went long. I know I did. I had stuff in the beginning, and I had stuff after, so I am sorry if you watched the entire thing and listened to me blab. So, if you guys did enjoy this, please do leave a like. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.